Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Larry Tun, and I'm your guest host today. Bill is on his 16-hour drive to Florida, and I'm filling in for him. But when he's done packing, he'll be back on the saddle tomorrow with another interview. Before I bring my guests, we're going to start the show off a little differently than planned. This past weekend, the world has received devastating news that George Perez passed away Friday evening. It's really sad, and I'm going to pause this show for a moment of silence in honor of George. All right. So unfortunately, George Perez passed away, and I think it was like 8 days after Neil Adams. You might remember George from Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earth, or Avengers. I know every time I'm going to see, Teen Titans on TV, I'm going to think of George. His body of work throughout his career is legendary. If you saw a splash page with 100 characters, it was probably George who drew it. And for most of us who travel to cons, we're going to miss seeing George. Some might say, don't meet your heroes. If George was your hero, he was definitely better than you can imagine. He appreciated the fans who waited in lines to meet him. He smiled and freely chatted with everyone. George, thank you for everything. You will be missed. I know there's probably some things that's going to happen later on in CAF related to George, but this is sad news. So on to the program. I have Miki. He's been collecting for a number of years well before I even started. I'm going to bring him on right now.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Miki.
Glad to be back on.
So Miki, your first show was in June 18th, 2019. That was pre-pandemic. So that's a while ago. I can't even remember what life was like before the pandemic. So wow. I mean, I imagine there's been a lot of things that have changed since then. But I want to show a picture from your first interview, and I thought it was amusing. Screen. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Interesting. All right. Sorry, having technical difficulties.
Growing pains.
Yeah. Oh, so it finally showed the window I wanted to show. So Miki, this is oops. I thought I shared it. All right, do you see the screen? Try to share it. All right, this is a little strange. This is a little different than like say Zoom.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been on StreamYard before, so I can't give you any help.
No worries. Give me 1 second here. This is very interesting. So I'm trying to share something. All right. So I hope the folks can see this. But that's what I have to add to the stream. Sorry. Learning. All right. Now I got that. All right. So now that I'm in the driver's seat. Okay. So this is an image of you from well back in your first interview. I mean, with Was this your entire collection at the time you took this?
No.
So you had more at that time. You even had more portfolios.
Correct.
And since this picture was taken, you've probably added more portfolios in the last 3 years.
Yes, I have.
So I think that's very impressive. And you, I'm assuming you labeled them. So how many of those portfolios are like Legion art?
About, I don't know, 27, 28 right now. There's a lot of Legion art I haven't put into portfolios yet. That's one of my projects I'm working on.
So you have a bunch of, you probably have stacks of art that you haven't yet had a portfolio for, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, unfortunately, is you know, I have sort of the same issues where I got art like that's unfortunately in FedEx boxes because I haven't bought enough portfolios to put them in. So so I think that's very impressive that you have this many portfolios. And I think I remember seeing you at one of the cherry blossom spectaculars where you actually brought your entire collection, but at that time it was probably, you know, maybe 20 portfolios at the time, and I think you've more than doubled that number now.
Yeah, that actually was not my entire collection at that time either. So that was all that I had in portfolios.
So Dave Rash said you have all the Legion art.
He lies.
All right, so so we'll go ahead and proceed with the interview. So as you know George Perez, and then there's Neil Adams unfortunately passed away. Do you have any good stories with George or Neil? Because I know you've been on the convention circuit for a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who's met George has a story about George, and he's met thousands of people, so there's thousands of stories for George there. I mean, if you had to write George's stories, there'd be an encyclopedia or more of his stories. I'd say I remember meeting George. The first time I met him was the second Baltimore convention, which I think was in 2001. That was held in the Sheraton. And George was sitting at a little table in a kind of a lobby area. And I took him 2 pages of art to sign. And I just remember him picking up the pages, looking at it and going, "Oh, wow, I haven't seen this in such a long time. Thank you for bringing them so I can take a look at them." And then he turned to, I think there was Sam De La Rose was sitting next to him, showed him the page and said, "What a great job these inkers did on this page." And that was George. He was praising everybody but himself. And so that's what I remember most about him, how enthusiastic he was, how friendly he was, and, just a genuine nice person to me.
Wow.
So that's my George story.
And how many years ago do you think that was?
That was 2001.
Okay.
So
and you've probably seen him number of times, just passing by his table, passing by those long lines.
Oh yes, I've seen him in many of the conventions I've been to. I've seen George. He stood in line for George after that a number of times. So yes, I've met him quite a few other times. Yeah, I had dinner with him once. So
any fun stories from that dinner? I know if I can imagine, George was very happy during the dinner and likes to have a lot of conversations. So
well, George, I didn't say much during the dinner. There was other artists at the table who were talking to George, and of course, George is always the center of attention wherever he is. So
right.
Yeah. So I was just sitting there listening to the conversations. So
yeah,
happy to be there.
Mm-hmm. So have you been in any cons in the last 2 years? I know the pandemic shut it down for over like a year. Have you been to any?
Yeah, I went to a terrific con last year and to Baltimore last year. And then this year I went to Comic Art Con in New Jersey. And I plan to go to Heroes Con in seems like in a few weeks. It's coming right up.
Yeah.
And then after that, Terrific Con, of course. I had plans for Baltimore, but they may be I may have a problem getting to that one. I have another
Sure.
family engagement in that same time period, so we'll see how that works out. But that's my plan so far.
How was Terrificon?
Terrificon was actually very nice. I liked it, especially on the first day I was there, and then it got a little crowded on the second day, and I didn't stay much on the showroom floor because I just felt the crowd of people at that time I couldn't take it. So I was there for maybe an hour or two, and I said, "Okay, that's enough," and left. But it was fun. I was glad to see most. I got to see everybody I went up there to see, even though I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Bill. I saw that he made a post here. So he's in his hotel in South Carolina. He probably has a couple more hours to go. And then he's probably going to spend some time unloading and unpacking. Such fun stuff. So, yeah, I was in Baltimore last year when I went for some time. I didn't go for the entire con, but it was a shell of itself. I mean, Baltimore used to be one of the best I mean, before the pandemic, Baltimore was one of the best cons, and they always had seemed like hundreds of guests. But this last one, unfortunately, I mean, it was great to have a show. It was just unfortunately that it didn't have as many guests that you would like, but there were obvious reasons why you didn't see as many guests.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah,
but I enjoyed the show anyway. There was, you got to see the guests that were there, and some of them brought art that wasn't available anywhere else. I think Bagley was there, and he had art that I don't think was available any website, previously. And so it was good, and I enjoyed it, even though I think the line getting in was a little ridiculous, but that's another story.
Oh, that might actually be a good thing if you had a long line to get in. I mean, that means the folks were coming to cons. So
yeah, the folks were coming to con. What happened is the line management was the problem. They were trying to take everybody's temperature before they went in, and they weren't doing it very efficiently, so it held the line up. That's what the problem was. So hopefully this year they will iron that problem out if they're going to take temperatures again, which I kind of doubt it.
Yeah. So. All right. So my next question. So I'm aware, as far as I know, you are part of this art collector group. There's probably like two other members where you guys have pretty much the lion's share of all the Legion art. I mean, it's at the point where dealers they have Legion art for sale, they'll probably contact one of you three, and I always find that interesting. I mean, it's because you got three friends here. You guys aren't competing with each other, and you guys have enough distinctive interests that you would say, okay, I found this Keith Giffen art, but you can have it, or one of them would find the Kurt Swan piece and said, hey, you can have it. And then, or Dave Cockrum, I don't know what you guys do with him, with his stuff. I don't know who claims that one, but I find it interesting that you got three like really hardcore Legion collectors, and it's you're not driving the prices on yourselves or anything like that. If it's available, you guys will probably talk it over to yourselves and say, okay, this is available, who's going to take it? But it's not cutthroat between you guys, which is I find very interesting. And then and the three of you end up with probably 80% of all the Legion art that's probably out there. So I find that really interesting. And I've never seen it before. Like X-Men collectors, we are all cutthroat. so if there's a Paul Smith art or there's Jim Lee art, we all want that. We're not, So, but
it really kind of started with eBay.
Yeah,
we were competing with each other on eBay, and back in those days, you could tell who you were competing against. So it's easy to kind of send a line over to them and say, listen, can we come to some kind of understanding here? And we did. And so that's how the group got started. Let's not build yourself up. Let's decide, who wants the piece the most and why, and discuss among ourselves, and then, not bid against each other. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and you guys been doing this for like years. I mean, probably like 20 years of you guys have been together, and you've coordinated distribution of Legion art. So,
Well, no, there's obviously in some of the top pieces. I mean, there is some some big guys out there who like certain covers and certain prestige pieces that we get outbid on. I think Dave Mandel's got some really nice Legion art in his collection, and nobody's going to go up against him. At least not any one of us. So
right. Yeah, and you guys would talk with each other, and if the price was too high, I guess all three of you would just decline it and let someone else take it.
yeah, if it was an auction, we had our top price that we were planning to bid on. So whoever was going to go for it was going to bid that price. If they got outbid, they got outbid. That was just the way it was.
And yeah, and someone obviously we're mentioning Mandel. I think Mandel has he has a few Legion pieces, and they're all very, very desirable. So
yeah, I do recall being outbid on one of them that he has in his collection. I saw it come up, and I tried to bid on it, and obviously I wasn't on the bidder on it.
So yeah, no, I think that's a group. I don't know any other group of collectors who will just combine forces or combine resources to say hey, we're let's go together and try to buy all the art for but you guys are just buying whatever you find, and I think it's a cool thing that the dealers they probably almost took it for granted that one of you three will buy the Legion art whenever they got it. But you guys are able to coordinate with yourselves to say you guys don't need it if none of you guys want it. So all right. So my next question is, so it's your last interview was in June 2019, and the world was in a different place now, and our hobby is in a completely different place as well too. So what is your view on the general state of our hobby?
Well, I don't know anybody could have predicted where we are today. I mean, it's unprecedented, and the levels of prices we're seeing, and it just seems to be it's continuing to feed itself, almost like a feeding frenzy, and the prices keep getting. You say, well, it couldn't possibly get any higher, and it does. And it's not just the premier art that's been going up in prices. The other art is also going up. It's like they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And you also have the new artists, people who are just producing art today, not much of a track record, and they're asking for a lot of money for their art. So everything has risen. So I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. So where it's going to go in the future, I don't have a clue. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there predicting what's going to happen, and I don't know. Everything that's happened so far is unprecedented. So who knows? I don't think the prices can continue to rise the way they've risen, but I never thought we'd be at this level either. So
yeah. I mean, you've been collecting for a long time. I mean, like you're probably like before eBay was ever out there. I mean, were you buying from Comics Buyer's Guide?
No, I didn't know those things existed I got some pieces back in the 80s, but I was not aware of the comic market. I lived in a small town out nowhere, so I wasn't aware of what else was happening. So every now and then I'd pick up a piece, but I didn't go to a lot of major conventions. So my collection up to the advent of eBay was very small. I think eBay is what drove the collective urge on me. And when I saw all the art on eBay, it was like, like a kid walking into a candy store, So I think eBay is what opened it up for me.
Yeah. And how did you react when you saw an auction and they probably said, here's Superboy or in the Legionnaire or here's Supergirl, but they didn't show a picture?
Oh, that was tough. That was really tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes the pictures were really bad. and you had to decipher what you were looking at. And one of the pieces I'm going to show later on, and is one of the pieces I got like that because it was a really lousy picture. You couldn't tell what it was really, so I had to make a guess and bid on it and hope it was something. So.
Yeah, I've done that before. Now I started later than you, but I guess around 2005, eBay was still big, but there were some. I mean, most people got the message that you probably should put a picture if you're going to put something, for an auction. But once in a while, you'd have a few folks who wouldn't put a picture and just said, "I have a Wolverine cover," and nobody wanted to bid on it. But I was like, just going to gamble $100 because I don't have any art. So it actually turned out to be the original art, and it was a cover. So, but it was a gamble. I mean, there were also other times when I saw a picture I wanted, and I found out it was a print after I get in the mail. So,
yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times where I bought a print when I thought I was getting art, but in those days that was a gamble you took.
Yeah. So, and even today, I mean, there's still some gambles, but not as much as last time. I think nowadays most people are selling like production pieces or some kind of reproduction, or I don't know if they sell transparencies. They probably do, but transparency snuck in the market sometime. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's being sold today, and I think they're getting the newer collectors or the gullible collectors. I think anybody who's been in the hobby for any time starts to immediately recognize that that's not something that needs to be collected.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're talking about the market. Has Legion art has that been affected tremendously?
Oh yes, everything has gone up. I mean, there is stuff selling for a lot higher than it used to. Just like so I've been outbid on things in Heritage, and that's just the way it's been.
And I guess same thing with like Supergirl. That art has been they've all escalated. What are your thoughts on Silver Surfer art?
Yeah, I think the Ron Lim art is now shooting up in price. And I think the Grindberg art is gonna be next after that. I think people are starting to look at that second series of Silver Surfer and say, that was a really good series, and there were some really good pages and some really good artists on that series. And I think you're going to see, besides Lim, who we already know the price has been driven up on him, you can see some of the other artists from that run. The prices start to escalate on those too.
So like a small portion of your collection, I'd say small, but you probably have larger than I'm acknowledging. You collect a lot of sci-fi like illustration art. So is that market, are you seeing the same like type of surge in that kind of market?
Only on certain artists. I say in general the prices have gone up, but not as much as original comic art. And except for certain artists, of course, the Frazetta artists, you've seen the prices that's getting, but he's always gotten good prices on his art, but you've seen some of the Boris arts going up in price, Patrick Nagel arts going up, so some of this it depends on the artist. It's not overall everything is jumped up.
Right. So, but I guess overall, everything is rising, and but probably in the illustration market is probably for a specific artist. I get that. I mean, to me, I semi follow the Silver Surfer market, but I'm looking at Heritage and I'm looking at eBay, and then in some other places like a Ron Lim Silver Surfer page is now like $10,000. and sometimes it's just unbelievable because it's not like there's Galactus and Surfer is blasting somebody, or sometimes it's Surfer and on a board, and in 3 panels, and all he's doing is you see just word balloons. it's Surfer talking to himself for like 5 panels, and something like that will go for like $10,000. So I'm just amazed that
Yeah.
the Silver Surfer market has exploded to that extent. Um, like, I mean, I can look at some of Ron Lim's peers. I mean, if you look at the, say, Brandon Peterson on Uncanny X-Men, I don't think his art would go for like $10,000. And you know, at the time, X-Men was the hottest book there. So I don't even think Andy Kubert's X-Men pages. I don't think they're regularly going to hit $10,000. But for some reason, I see Ron Lim Silver Surfer pages like are really are like high up there.
Yeah.
But I will
Yeah,
say,
I would say that when I started to try to collect Silver Surfer art, the Ron Lim Silver Surfer art was always the hardest to get because a lot of people who had it, if they were collectors, didn't want to sell it. So, I'm not totally amazed by the price. I mean, obviously, you got to be amazed by the price, but I can see some rationale behind it because you've had people who've held on to this stuff for a long time, and it's going to take some high prices for them to part with it. People people got an emotional attachment to this stuff, so it's not just what you think it should be worth. It's just they like it, they want it, then they have it, and they don't want to sell it. Yes, I've got Ron Lim Silver Surfer pages, but somebody offers me 10,000 tomorrow, I'm not going to sell. That's just the way it is. So.
That's yeah. You're one of those collectors, and I can't say I'm not one of them either. But you're saying, and I think you're right, because Ron Lim, he's probably did, I don't know, 100 issues or something like that of Silver Surfer. I mean,
no, it wasn't that. It was they started around issue 16, I think. I mean, you had Marshall Rogers, then you had Ron Lim, and then you had Grindberg did a whole bunch of issues. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's probably around 50 issues you did.
Okay,
maybe. Yeah, I'm just the wrong guess.
I mean, I remember
did a bunch, and then you had some other artists after that.
Okay, I remember because I remember issue number 75, and he did a couple of issues after that. I'm not sure if you did it up to 100, but yeah, I mean, you'd have to think there are thousands of Silver Surfer pages out there, but like you said, you're actually not seeing as many as you would think. And I wanted to get to like Silver Surfer covers with Ron Lim. I think I've only seen maybe 2 or 3 in my entire life, while collecting. I don't see Ron Lim Silver Surfer covers.
I know. It took me the hardest time to get the first one because, as I said, I kept looking and nobody wanted to sell.
Yeah. So I imagine you've been looking longer than I have, and it's just, I mean, all that time. I mean, I think you do have one. Do you have a Silver Surfer cover from the main title?
From the original, from the Buscema run?
Mm-hmm.
No. I had a chance to buy one way back when, but I kind of chickened out.
Okay.
So.
Now I was talking about the Ron Lim from that main title in the 90s.
Yeah, I've got probably, I'm thinking maybe 4 Ron Lim covers.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Well, I need to check them out because, like I said, I've only seen like 2 or 3 in my life, and I mean, I wasn't a hardcore Silver Surfer, collector, but if I saw a cover available, I mean, I would think about it, but I didn't. And over the years since I've been collecting, I haven't seen very many. So, all right. So I was going to ask you what you thought about the next 5 years, but you kind of said that you're not really sure what's going to go on for the next 5 years in terms of this hobby. But
I could guess that it should. I'm going to guess it's going to plateau out. I don't think the prices are going to ever come down. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to guess that this rate of increase is not going to continue, that we're going to reach some kind of plateau, and you're going to see, certain artist prices continue to go up, but I don't think the market itself is going to continue to rise. But that's just a guess. It's not based on anything.
So, all right, Miki, one more question until I get to your showing your art. You got about, well over 1,000 pieces. I mean, me and you, I mean, a lot of check boxes have been made, but is there anything you're looking for, or you're just collecting, or is anything you're saying you're targeting, or you're hoping to see on the dealer site somewhere, or come up
Well,
on
I
eBay?
mean, I've got most of the stuff that I thought I wanted. I wanted way back when I started collecting. I would say that I have some like issues where I have, maybe 15 pages of a 20-page story, and I'd like to see if I could find the other 5 pages. There's things like that. But other than that, there's anything in particular that I'm really, going after.
Okay. So, uh, all right. So now we'll go ahead and look at your art. So, um, here's one of your pieces. This is off on a comet. So this is a sci-fi cover. So you acquired this. It looks like in June 2020. What's the significance of this piece?
Well, when I first started to read comics at a very early age, my parents were very concerned the fact that I was reading this juvenile stuff, and they wanted me, to read something that was, more of a literate stuff. So they thought buying me classic illustrated comics would be the best thing. So whenever I got them to buy comics for me, I got classic illustrated comics. Of course, when I had my own money, I'd buy the superhero comics. But I had a ton of these classic illustrated comics when I was growing up, and I picked this one because it's got the sci-fi theme, it's got the Jules Verne connection, and it was a piece I acquired just around when the pandemic was getting started. So it's a newer piece, and it sort of feeds into both it's a comic cover, and it is an illustration cover, so it sort of crosses over.
Uh-huh. Did you recognize the artist's name when you bought this?
No, I brought it strictly because of it being a classical illustrated cover and being the cover to a Jules Verne.
But you remember you remember buying the comic with this cover?
Oh yes, I remember. I remember this image vividly.
Okay, so this was a lot of nostalgia when you bought this. Like you didn't even care who the artist was. Like you knew where you were when you saw this.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, this pure nostalgia.
cool. How did you find this? Was this on Heritage or?
Now this was a local art dealer who knows I collect this stuff, and he had gotten it in, and he called me up and said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Of course." So then it was just a matter of negotiating the price.
Oh, cool. So, all right. So let me go to another one. So, let's see. All right. So here you have a Sherlock Holmes page by Dan Day. Wow. Look at the inking on this piece.
Yes, this one I had forever, but I only recently put it up on CAF,
So,
and
sorry.
it was way back when I used to read I read all when I think by the time I was 11, I read all the Sherlock Holmes novels, and I just particularly remember this story and that one line in the book which just said the dog did nothing at midnight at night. And so when they started adapting these books to comics, and Dan Day was doing this art, I've discovered if you look at the back of the comic, they said you could write us and inquire about the original art for these comics. So I wrote them and I asked specifically for this page and a couple others. And of course, luckily for me, this was available. So I got it. And it's been up on my wall for about 30 years or so. And it's, I like, and I love everything about the page. I love the connection to the novel. I love that it has that line that I really love from the novel, and the image of Sherlock Holmes on that is just so striking, So that one sort of hit all the, ticked all the boxes for me.
So wait, you said you've had this page for 30 years?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. Um, and was this like before you started collecting comic art, or was this something that you just ran
Yeah,
into?
this is one of my earliest pieces of comic art. I really hadn't really, I'd seen comic art and I'd got a few pieces, but by the time when I got this piece, I probably had maybe 10 pieces of art in total. So it wasn't that many pieces of art, but one of my earliest pages I got.
And this came from like a local dealer?
No, this I wrote directly to Dan Day.
Oh,
And
really? Wow.
yes, and I think he was in Canada somewhere. I don't remember exactly if it was what the address was, but I remember writing to him, send him a check, and then having to wait maybe a month to get the art, something like that. Of course, you had to cash the check and make sure it was good before he sent the art.
So 30 years ago, you're saying, so in the 90s,
Yes,
you were
this
able to
came out
find
in yeah.
you were able to find Dan Dare's address and
It
write
was
to
at the
him.
back of the comic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you could write. They had his address at the back of the comic, and he said, "Write me for original art," and I did.
Okay.
So
And so when you wrote to him, did he like send you a catalog, or how did you pick, how did you decide which page to choose?
I just looked over the books that I had gotten so far, and I asked if which pages were available. And then I got a letter back telling me which were available and what the price was, and then I sent him off a check for the ones I wanted. So
Oh, I think that's incredible. And did you try to acquire more?
no, I think one of the things that he told me is that he wasn't selling any of the covers, and so I gave up on trying to get any covers out of him. And most of the splash pages were already promised on Not a Collector. So once I got some of the pages I liked from the book, I said, okay, that's enough.
Interesting. So, oh, you had a question here from Wes that says, Mickey, what percent of your art is in CAF?
I'm going to say about half of it, maybe.
You have half. I think you already have like 1,000 pieces on CAF itself. So so you're saying there's probably another 1,000 that you have left to scan.
I think I have like almost 2,000 pieces on CAF. So
Oh, that's incredible, and many more portfolios for you to go through. So
yes, of course, a lot of the art nobody's going to care about. I have a lot of like Legion '89 art.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody collects that about me. I think that art hasn't risen in price. So, but I don't see many of it out for sale either. So,
yeah, but you haven't seen many Dane Dare Sherlock Holmes art over the years, have you?
no, I haven't seen much of it for sale.
So whoever has been writing to him, they're not selling them. So that's pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
So whoever like wrote to him in the 90s, they really wanted to keep it. So
yeah, I'm going to suspect it's going to be not people who collect original art per se who's got that art. It's probably you have some Sherlock Holmes collectors who've got some of that art.
Yeah. Oh, we got Michael McIsaac, who's also a big DC fan. He said Legion '89 was such a fun series. Barry Kitson. So
yes.
you have several pages from that series, right?
Oh yeah, well yeah, I got several hundred pages from that series.
Okay. Oh, I think I've said Dan Dare by mistake a couple times. So sorry, Ruben, you're right. It's Dan Day. My mind's been on Dan Dare. So
yeah.
it is Dan Day.
Yeah.
So all right. So we'll go on to your next piece of art. 1 second here. So all right. So this next piece we have is this Tarzan by Russ Manning. Now, I think we all love Russ Manning. So, what's the story behind this piece?
Yeah, the jazz I've written on this. I've written a description of this art, on my CF gallery. But basically, when I started reading comics at a very early age, these were some of the earliest comics I read. Was these Tarzan comics, and at that early age, around 9 or 10, the Russ Manning art just stood out to me. Of everybody else who was drawing comics at the time, I just remember so vividly, noticing his art and really liking it. Of course, then I moved on to superhero comics, but I never forgot, the Russ Manning stuff. So I think I bought this last year, and it just came down to I'd seen this art before the previous Comic Art Con, and it was not a very low price. It was a reasonably priced page for Russ Manning. But at the time I was buying some other stuff, so I decided I couldn't afford it then. Then last year the seller had it, and it was one of the last two pieces of Russ Manning art he had. So I decided, well, it's about time I get it, So I went ahead and got it, and so it's, so this piece is also nostalgia too, because it's one of the, it's based on the early comics I read back when I was, a wee lad.
Mm. So I see you added some additional images as well too. So you had one where it's color, but you have the published cover, which is interesting because it was a simple background. They just added a color background. I always thought, back in the day, whenever this was probably drawn like in the 70s or early 80s, even early 80s, a lot of the published covers that you see, they went full background with everything. There was no, they didn't anticipate the background to be colored here, but I think it works really well here. It really highlights these saber-toothed tigers and this dinosaur. I think this is amazing. So you said you were reading Tarzan back then?
Yeah.
Is this your only Russ Manning piece?
I have another a panel page from Korak, Son of Tarzan, in my CF gallery, and that's my other Russ Manning page.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, I don't have a Russ Manning page, but I would be happy with something. I know I'm also a big dinosaur fan, so would love to have a Russ Manning dinosaur. What was the story around here? Like, why is there a dinosaur in the jungle with Tarzan?
Well, it was a land from beyond time. So, Tarzan discovered that there was a land where dinosaurs was still there. So, Tarzan's always traveling to these unknown parts and discovering lands that nobody found or discovered. And so he discovered a land beyond time where there were dinosaurs. So wow. that was the story.
Yeah. Probably somebody saw it's like, hey, look at Khazar. He's in a savage land and got dinosaurs and everything. We should have dinosaurs too. So
yeah. Khazar was a copy of Tarzan.
Were you also reading like the Joe Kubert issues of Tarzan?
Yes, I did. I did collect those. I did go back. I did pick up all the Gold Key issues of Tarzan, and then when DC took over the series, I collected those. And then when Marvel had the Tarzan books, I also collected those.
What's the size of this piece?
It's twice up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So even though I'm seeing on my screen here, I should imagine it's about 20 by 18 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 20 by 18.
Wow. It's nothing better than having a large piece of art with a big dinosaur on it. I think that's great. So
I was very happy that I finally decided to spring and get it. One of those things you bought spending that much money, and then you look at it and go, it was money well spent.
Yeah. No, congrats on this. I think a lot of our old time collectors, we would love to have a Russ Manning. I think this is a great example of it. So, all right. So, got two more pieces. And so, now this is an interesting one here that I never expected Mars Attack and Red Sonja.
Well,
Nick
you know,
Barucci's in the chat. I don't
you know,
know. Is this something he published? Nick Barucci from Dynamite?
yes, yes. You know, Dynamite have been doing all these crossovers. So all the titles they have, they've had crossovers between the major characters that they've had, and this is one they did with Mars Attacks Red Sonja, and Barry did variant covers for 4 of the 5 issues. So this was number 1 issue, and it's actually based on the Mars Attacks card, which I have in the other images on my CF there, which if you want to pull that one up, so you see there's a soldier attacking, and so it's loosely based off of that card with Red Sonja in place of the soldier.
I think this is really cool. Now it's not something that I didn't even know. I never knew this comic existed. I think I might have to.
You need to pay more attention to Nick's comics, Larry.
Well, that's a prelim, but Mars Attack and Red Sonja. You just wouldn't even think of putting the two together.
Well, the guys from Mars Attacks could have attacked at any age. So if they choose to attack during the Hyborian age, they run into somebody like Red Sonja.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm sure in the comic when they shot their gun, it always hit a part of Red Sonja's armor. So.
Of course.
So, oh man, I think that's pretty cool. And you haven't this is what it was originally based off of.
Yes.
Okay. Soldier fights back. Now, what's this guy here? I mean, he must be spraying him with water. Is that what the Martians were using, water guns?
No, I think he's about to die in that actual card. I think they're disintegrating him.
So, but yeah, I think it's funny. He's just shooting. It's probably some acid he's throwing at him. He just doesn't feel it.
Yes, not yet. Anyway.
So
yeah, so I'm a big fan of Barry. So, and I also like Red Sonja. So you have, Barry doing a Red Sonja cover.
That's probably way too.
Something I had to get, and
yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, did Barry also do the interiors?
No, he just did covers.
Okay. I think this is a really fun piece you got here.
Now, and also that people talk about pencils and inks. So what Barry did on this one, he did the pencils, and then he scanned the pencils into the computer, printed out on blue line, and then inked the blue line. So there's actually 2 pieces of art for this. You have the pencils and the inks. So I bought both pencils and inks from Barry. Right.
And that's been his process for about the last 10 years, right?
Maybe 5 years, 6 years. I don't think it goes back all the way to 10, but yeah, he's been doing a lot of that, especially for covers. Mm-hmm. Not so much for interiors.
Okay. Yeah. Was this a one shot, or was there like a whole miniseries for the?
There was a miniseries. I think there were 5 issues.
Wow.
I don't recall exactly, but I think there were 5 issues.
I think I'm gonna have to look for the trade paperback. I am so intrigued about what this is, but you're right. The Martians could have came at any time, and I guess they decided to come when they were using only swords and metal bras. But yeah, this is really cool. I mean, there's probably some truth to it, and that's probably why we haven't seen Martians in years. So I mean, in millenniums, because back then. We had, warrior princesses, beating up the Martians, so the Martians didn't come back. So there's probably some, truth to this history. But all right, I'm gonna go to your last piece here. All right. So,
okay.
Now this one you don't have on CAF.
No, this is actually one of my earliest pieces of art, my earliest pieces of Legion art, and it was the eBay purchase where there was like you couldn't tell what really was on the page and what the page was about and what you really were buying and you just bought it and hoped you got something in the mail that was, something good, and you end up spending $100 on a, you could be throwing it away, or you could get something like this. So,
Wow.
and I hadn't scanned it for, since I had it, since it was one of my earliest pieces of art. I never got around to scanning it, so I only recently scanned it for this show. As you can tell, it needs a little bit of restoration, but other than that, most of the art's there. And what's interesting about this page being like it's an early Legion piece, the two characters that they're showing there, they're tornado twins, are actually the twin kids of the Barry Allen the Flash Barry Allen, Silver Age Flash. And so they're demonstrating their super speed powers on the Legion. And so this is like their first appearance. I guess their first appearance will be the cover. So this is their first interior appearance. And then also significant is that Don Allen, becomes the father of Impulse, of Bart Allen, who becomes Impulse, who later becomes Kid Flash, and then Flash. And then Dawn Allen becomes the mother of Jenny Ognats, who becomes Excess, who later joins the Legion. So they got tie-ins to Barry Allen, the Flash, and to future Legionnaires. And so this was like a real find for me. Probably one of my favorite Legion pieces that I have in my collection.
And you've owned this about 30 years?
Yes, I would say I bought it in 1998. I think I bought it.
Right, and this was off eBay.
Yes, this was off of eBay.
Yeah, it's probably the early years of eBay. And you said they didn't have a picture when you bought it, right?
They had a picture, but it was, I don't know. It was hard to tell what it was because it wasn't taken on the scan. It looks like it was taken on a camera, and
mm-hmm.
and it was grainy and small, and you couldn't, he's thinking, I think it's art. I think it's Legion art. It was badly described to because it didn't say Legion anywhere on it.
Oh, the technology back in '98. You remember those digital cameras? You were lucky to have like 1 megapixel. So
exactly.
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming when they listed it, they didn't know who the artist, right? Because I don't see the artist's name in any part of this page.
No, it's Win Mortimer is the artist.
Right.
And no, they did not list the artist. They did not list Legion of Superheroes. I think they might have said Adventure Comics.
Okay. I mean, it had the number and everything, Adventure Comics number 373, and they probably said, hey, look, there's Superboy too. So.
Yeah, there was something like that in the description. And then the picture, you could say, well, there's a bunch of people fighting, and it looks like art, so maybe it is what I think it is. So.
Yeah. Now, this, I mean, obviously, you feel very fortunate that you were able to get this off eBay. I mean, you gambled, and it came out really great. How many times did those gambles work out for you in eBay in terms of you buying pieces and it was a keeper?
I would say that, I don't know, more than half the time. I would say maybe 60-70% of the time, the stuff I bought on eBay on a gamble, I won.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few times I got stuff and I went, this is not quite what I thought it was. It was art, but not what I thought it was. Or a couple of times I got prints when I thought it was art. But
Yeah, but how many times have you actually won the lottery and said, and gone on eBay in those early days and come out with a piece of this significance?
No, that I don't think I've ever bought another piece of this significance off eBay.
Okay.
Like something like gambling like that. I don't think. Yeah, this is this is my big win.
Right. So and you've had this obviously for a very, I mean, over about 25 years probably, and this is still your favorite piece. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's probably like one of those pieces. It's probably get buried with me. Just joking.
Do you have any other? Did you find any other pages from this issue 373?
Yes, yeah, but that's the other thing too. The seller had 6 other pages from this issue, which
Oh
I
wow!
also bought. So I've got 6 other pages from this issue.
And so this was back in the day when you were asking the seller, hey, do you have any more pages? And then they would sell it to you off eBay.
Correct.
Very nice.
And then of course you'd send your money and you go, well, it's off eBay. They don't really have to send me anything because it's an off eBay transaction. I send them a check and they can just say, I never received the check, or,
Yeah.
and never send me anything. So
Yeah, this is before PayPal. So
yeah.
um
Yeah.
so you end up with this, and then you added 6 more pages. I mean, that was frosting on top of the cake. Nice. Man. It was you. I wish I was collecting back in the late '80s, but that's I'm pretty sure I was really poor back then.
Well,
So,
I didn't have a lot of money back then either. So I was spending. I think I had a limit that I wouldn't spend more than $200 on a comic page when I first started, because I didn't have a lot of money, and a lot of times you were gambling because you could give negative feedback, but there was no PayPal, there was no eBay guarantee you would get the stuff. So almost every transaction was a gamble.
yeah. Oh man. So do you still look for art on eBay? Do you look for Legion art?
Oh yeah, I'm still looking for Legion, Silver Surfer, Supergirl. I got all my keywords out there, and I get a whole bunch of junk usually from those searches. Every now and then a piece pops up, but not very often.
Okay. So, yeah, this is a fantastic title splash. I got a Dick Dillon from off eBay, and I was lucky it was like a buy and now. I barely saw what the image looked like, but at the time I was looking for a Dick Dillon, and I got it for a really cheap price, but very happy. Like I wasn't even sure if the page was real, but came back, it was real, and so. Back then, I mean, there used to be some really good stuff on eBay. I don't remember now. What did you feel like when you were on eBay and you saw the first page that like the bidding went over 1,000?
Oh, I just thought it was crazy. I was like, these people. I don't know what these people are drinking, but I'm not partaking. So
Yeah,
I knew my lane. I stayed in my lane for a long time. I didn't get out of that lane.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, around the time when I first started, I think there was a Jack Kirby page that went for sale, and I think it went for like $8,000, and I'm like, who would pay $8,000 for that? Are they crazy? Yeah, I totally wasn't total noob. I didn't realize how expensive art was at the high end part of the market.
Yeah, I think there's another collector I talk to every so often. I said, well, when you guys were going high, I was going low. So,
all right. So we already got hey, Malvin.
Hey,
Hey,
guess I'm live.
right,
Malvin's my next guest, and he showed up early, and thank you. So, Miki, you and Malvin know each other, right?
Yeah,
I've met a few times.
I've actually bought something from Malvin.
Yep. And we saw each other at Emerald a few times, at least once or twice, if not more. So, and from the Comic RL or whatever, and other places.
Yeah, and then I remember Emerald City. I mean, I haven't been there in years, but that was one of my favorite conventions. I don't think I've gone since when Reed bought it out. But before that, I did go, and it was always packed. I mean, they had a convention floor, then had the hotels, and it was always sold out every year. And but it was such a fun con.
It's a fun con. I've been there. I've only been there when Barry's been there, which has only been twice. So,
yeah,
it's been a while.
All right. Well, Miki, thank you for your time. Thank you for volunteering for this. I had a great time talking with you, and getting your insights on where things are and how things were back then, and and congrats on your new art. it seems that even though prices are still very high, you still keep buying art. But I think part of it because you have such an eclectic collection. So you're buying like some illustration art, you're buying, it's non-superhero related art, and you're also buying Legion stuff too. But
yeah, well, you have to do something like that in today's market. You just can't go after everything that's out there because you just can't afford it.
Yeah.
So certain things you got to make up your mind what you're going to go and what you're going to spend. So.
Yeah. So, all right, Mickey. Well,
All right.
feel free to hang around if you want, but
bye, Mickey.
Yeah, he's kicking me off.
No, you feel free to stay if you want to. I mean, so
all right, guys,
but
have a good show. Talk to you later, Larry.
Thanks, Mickey.
All right, later, Mickey.
Bye.
So, hey, Melvin.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah. So, I don't know how much of the show you've caught, but I started off with talking about George Perez. That was such devastating news. I mean, we knew he had cancer, and I think he was denying chemo, but it was still a shock to the system that there's today George is not here.
Yeah.
And this was actually so soon after Neil Adams. So. Right. Yeah, really sad stuff going on right now. And then we went to did a couple questions with Mickey, and took a look at his collection. So, but Malvin, I mean, your last interview was back in
November 2020. You made me look when we booked this. So yeah, it's been,
okay,
so
November
COVID,
2020,
but not 6 months to COVID, I guess.
So Mickey's first interview was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was November 2019, so that was quite a long time ago. And your first interview was over a year ago. So I'd like to take this opportunity to try to catch up with some of the some of the collectors from a while ago. And Malvin, me and you, I think we probably have started around the same time. I mean, if I started maybe around 2004, 2005. When did you start?
A bit earlier. I think I really started around that time. I started in 98, but it took a pause, school and whatever. So it didn't really, I think between 98 and I want to say 03, I got maybe 10, 12 pieces. And it wasn't until like 04 that, I got back into it. And then, I was working again. So obviously I had more income and I started buying more, right? So that's kind of when I ramped up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So did you buy your first piece in 1998?
Yeah, 1998. I'm on there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, what was it?
It was a Tim Sale Superman for All Seasons page because he was a local con. He actually did a sketch for me too, so I still have that page. So yeah, it was a Tim Sale page.
That's a really nice first page you got there.
At the time, I just thought that any good art, you could just have a chance for $100 and you get it. Obviously, that's not the case. But yeah, I got lucky that something that I like was the guys coming to town, and then it was affordable, right? So.
Now, did you know that comic art was available before you bought that Tim Sale page?
Yeah, I think I was telling Bill about this too. There was the old comiccon.com site had a comic art section. That's where I kind of read about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew about it. That's what I looked into it. I think because before that I went to comic conventions, and they probably had comic art that I tuned out on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think by the time that came around, I kind of knew about it, so I was looking for it. So that's why I bought it. So that was my introduction.
I mean, it probably was only $100, but like you, 1998, I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And so $100 was quite a stretch. I mean, I couldn't even imagine spending $100 on comics. And so $100 on comic art is like, didn't even, was probably, comic art was just a luxury I didn't have. Right. And then honestly, even when I started in 2003 or 2004 and 2005, that around that time frame, I didn't have a lot of money either. And it was still hard because I think that around that time covers were still, an average cover would still be around like $600 or, $700.
Probably. Yeah. I think, maybe less.
Yeah, probably. But it was still hard to find. I had to gamble on eBay. It's like, oh, this guy's auction is not going to go very high because he didn't have a picture. So probably going to gamble the $100, $200. Hopefully it's real. So
yeah, I miss the days. I guess Spencer's site where like he would just post the issue and the page, I would like run to the comic, kind of flip out, kind of figure out which page it was and order it just based on that. In hopes that your page count is the same as the other guy, right? So yeah, those were the days back then.
Yeah. Now, I know for myself, when I first started collecting, I was really into like con sketches, and I was like, running to the conventions and then trying to get first in line, trying to get first in the sketch list and things like that. Were you doing that when you were like first starting out?
I was the opposite. So I think when I first started, I didn't look at sketches at all. Like to me, I wanted the published page, and I think was it even Miki? On Comic Art L, there was a couple of posts where I said, nope, not interested in sketches. To me, it's not art. Like I want just the published pages, right? But obviously, as the more you collect, the more you get to know the artists. That's kind of when I started getting into sketches more. But I was the opposite. Before it was all published pages.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, question is, how did you discover the Comic Art L?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I'm trying to think about it. It was like so many years ago. I can't remember if someone referred to me or I just Googled it and found it.
Yeah. Maybe I Googled. Maybe it's the comiccon.com site again. Yeah, I didn't. No, now that you mentioned it, I don't remember how I joined.
So, but before Facebook and I guess when I started, CAF was still around. It's just,
I started before CAF. So it was before CAF. It was the old whatever that long box site or whatever that site that was the host of the 5 images.
Right. But Comic Art L was kind of like our network. It was kind of like
that was it as far as that was it.
I mean, if you wanted information about how things are and wanted to follow specific artists, I mean that Comic Art L was kind of like the place where you found that knowledge.
Yeah, it was.
So, and then always you had someone say, "Here, I had an art day," and then they put a link to their CAF. So that whole art day, I mean, that's I enjoyed those posts. So
yeah.
So. All right, Malvin. So, as you know, I mean, talked about George Perez and Neil Adams. I mean, what works did they do that probably like had the biggest impact on you?
So I'll start with Perez, I guess. So Perez, I mean, when I started reading comics, I never actually, what's the word I want to use, cared or knew about the artists, right? I just at the time when I first started, it was just a comic and a story. I had no clue who the different artists were. So I probably couldn't even tell different styles. Obviously, later on, I kind of knew them. So I never read Perez during his like Crisis and whatever. I actually got into much later. And I think it wasn't until like the Busiek Avengers run that I started, collecting Perez and reading Perez. And I think, I mean, that's kind of when I started. I've only seen him at a con once. He was very nice. It was San Diego, I think 2008. That was the only time. I didn't get a sketch from him or anything. But yeah, a great guy, and I just enjoyed his art. And I was lucky that I guess Spencer was his dealer, and at the time, it was those art drop type things where you don't know when it's coming, but once you see the posting, you got to go get it, right? So yeah. And then Neil Adams. So again, he was before my time. So I kind of read the Green Arrow run as reprints or as back issues, only because I heard a lot about it. So, and while I admire his art, I saw him at cons. I never like chase after him for sketches or signatures. And I do want a Neil Adams Batman and Green Arrow page, but whenever it was always like how much I liked it was beyond. Sorry, how much they were going for was not as much as I liked it, right? And that and now I'm probably never going to get one of those pages now, right? So
I think you can still afford it, but it is a stretch. I mean,
okay, I mean you can always afford it, but like I wouldn't pay that price, right? Like I wouldn't sell half my collection to get something, right? Or whatever the price is, right? So
right,
in theory you can afford whatever 10-20 grand, but I just wouldn't pay that for a page, right? So or more, right?
Right. So, I mean, Neil Adams, I loved. I mean, obviously, I loved his Batman and I loved his Deadman. But his Green Arrow and Green Lantern, I love that team up issues. So, have you been to any cons in the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think I went to the local Vancouver Con, the Fan Expo one. So that's I think probably the first con since COVID I went to. So I think the previous one was the February before COVID hit. So I think that was the last one I went to, and then and then once it opened up again. So when was it, November? Whenever it was, that was the last time I went to it. So.
So how did it feel to go to that con? Were you worried? I mean, did you wear a mask? Or
I don't think I wore. Did they require masks? I don't remember. Oh, The stupid thing was, so here's an anecdote. Like I go there a bit early. I have one of those VIP passes, and then I realized halfway through, oh, I forgot my phone. I'm like, whatever, I'll just deal without it. And as I was going in at the time, they still wanted the vaccine pass, which is on my phone.
Oh,
so lucky enough, I lived close enough. I was able to like drive home and back within half an hour with my phone. But anyways, so it was still COVID at the time. I was double vax. I caught COVID earlier, so I wasn't too worried. And I think at the time they said Kevin Boyd kind of said they were limited by space. So I think at the time they were dictated to have half capacity still. So they purposely limited the capacity still, and so it was still pretty empty. It wasn't as crowded as previous years.
Mm-hmm. So the con itself, did it have like half the guests that it usually did?
No, I think it had the full fleet of guests.
It had a whole fleet of guests. Wow.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's it's a big con for Vancouver, but it's still small in the grand scheme of things. But I don't think they had any less guests than before. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. So now, since you're in Canada, are Canada conventions different from the American counterparts?
I don't think so. I haven't been to a lot of cons, right? So I go to Emerald before my kid, and in Vancouver, and I've been to a couple in Toronto and San Diego here and there.
Right.
I don't think it's a big difference. For example, like Fan Expo, they have cons on both sides of the border. I'm pretty sure they're one and the same. The only subtle thing I might say is maybe just the Canadian currency, right? So sometimes artists will price it a bit cheaper on the Canadian side, but I'm talking like 5% because it's just they just don't deal with conversion, so they're run a certain way, so it's a bit cheaper. But other than that, I don't think there's a difference. I'm sure there's people who've gone to more cons on both sides of the border with a better opinion than me, right? So
okay. But did you enjoy that Vancouver con?
Yeah, I liked it. I got quite a few pieces. I think I probably bought more than I would have, only because I'm kind of there. I haven't been to a con in a while, so I probably lowered my own threshold of what I would buy. So I bought more than I think. If there was no COVID at all and I was going to cons all the time, I probably wouldn't have bought some pieces that I bought. But
okay. So I asked Miki about what his thoughts are, but how do you feel about the general state of the art hobby?
Well, I mean, we all see the crazy prices. It's not going to double every 6 months or whatever the rate of increase is, right? So, will it go down? Who knows, right? So, I mean, if I remember saying, I mean, it's never gone down before, at least not in a big macro way. But in the past, it was only going up 10-20% a year, right? If you're doubling every 6 months, But I think, I mean, this is a luxury. So I suspect that people who paid top dollar wouldn't sell unless they need to, and they wouldn't need to sell, right? So I suspect then it'll probably plateau rather than crash. So what I would think, people just wouldn't sell, right? If they're not getting what they paid out of it. Is my feel. But as Miki said, we're all guessing. There's no data. There's no real forecast to tell the future, right?
Yeah, I think since we've both been collecting around this, for about the same time. I mean, we've all heard, people say, "Oh, the prices are going to have to come down." The prices are going to come down. It's been saying that
forever. Like since we started, it's been saying, "Oh, it's too high. That's crazy, right? That's not. You're crazy, right?"
Yeah. And even during the recession, during the 2008 recession, prices never actually went down. Now you saw nice pieces come out.
Yeah, I mean, there was maybe some hesitation and pauses, and I'm going to say uncertainty, but it was never a noticeable decrease, right? I didn't see any. I didn't notice anything. So.
Right. So, but I mean, so I imagine with the way the prices are, just like me, I mean, you're buying less now, right?
Yes. Now I think, is it pricing? I thought about that. So some of it is pricing, and some of it also is like we've been collecting long enough that I have all the stuff. So, we talked about tin sale. Is about what 10-20 grand for a panel page for some of them.
Yeah.
I don't need one at at that because I already have some, right? So is it the price? Who knows, right? But it's still a factor, right? But the fact that we have so much of what we have already, I think, also kind of limits what we buy. And plus, I don't read new comics anymore. I know if you do. So then that I have no reason or attachment to any new published pages, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I when I say new comics, I mean I'm still like a year or two behind. so I'm reading them on like Marvel Unlimited. So,
right.
But no, I mean, I'm just don't have the time to go to comic book store every Wednesday and buy $100 worth of comics. So, and actually why I buy less comics nowadays is more about space.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you're spending $50 on comics every week, I mean, it takes up a lot of space. So, So that's a challenge I have. But no, but when I, was collecting art, like, that was my primary hobby, comics, I just stopped carrying, like, and bag and board. I didn't use any bag and boards. I just bought it, read it, but then just like threw it in a box with no bag and board. So, but since you mentioned it, so Tim Sale Market, you think you're pretty much priced out now, or
probably like I'm priced out. I wouldn't buy any cage at least the vintage ones at current values, and lucky for me, I have some already, so I don't need to. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So, but I'm pretty sure you're just like me. You're shocked at how strong those long Halloween prices are.
Yeah. Like, I think I saw, like, I'd read because we mentioned, we talk about it. I checked again the Heritage. I think there was one that sold for 20.
Yes.
And then I think recently there was one that sold for like 15, which when I saw, I was like, hey, it's actually cheap, right? But relative to the 20, but I still wouldn't buy the 15, right? So
and then we saw the trade paperback cover show up on Comic Link like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and it's kind of going for more and more.
And the last time it went on, it came up, it went to like 60,000. So, wow. I love Long Halloween, but it's just, I don't know if I would pay 60,000.
Exactly, and you can afford it in theory, right? If you sell stuff, but just wouldn't. Your internal valuation doesn't equal what it's worth, right?
I think the first time that I saw that trade paperback cover for, when the first time it went on Comic Link, it probably was hit like 10,000 that first time, maybe 15,000.
Like
even back then, it was kind of eye opening to say, wow, that went for 15,000. I thought it was only probably going to hit like 5.
Yeah,
and it only really escalated since then.
Yeah.
So, whoever sold it, either the first time or the second time, they made good profit off of it. So,
right.
So, but next person, I know one of your favorite pieces is your, Barry Windsor Smith Weapon X cover. What are your thoughts on the Barry Windsor Smith market? There were 2 major pieces that came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think anything that's like A+, you just can't predict what's going to go for, and I don't know why anyone would ever like set a price for it, right? I think you would just auction everything, anything half decent you would auction, right? Someone in their group said that. I think it was Rob or someone. That like, why would you, right? Like, if you were selling, I just can't predict anything anymore, and I think everyone's in the same way. And to not take the risk, you would just consign at an auction if you're selling, right? Like, I have no clue, right? So
yeah. But I think you feel more comfortable with your own investment or your own purchase, though. If anything hit the fan, you have that in the corner if you needed some money. So
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, for sure.
But I'm pretty sure that's probably like one of your last 2 or 3 pieces that you would sell.
That wasn't why I bought it, but certainly I'm grateful that the market went up. That I guess if something does happen, assuming that comic art kept their value, that's still something I have, right? So
yeah. So no, very, I love your cover, and I don't think it's far off from the covers that sold in the last to the 2 times on Comic Link.
Yeah.
I love that trade paperback cover. That's still my favorite, but I didn't think that the helmet cover would probably go double that, whatever that was. So the helmet cover, that's probably the most definitive image of Weapon X, but I think the result of that was really eye-popping. So so I'll throw one more. What about Mike Zeck's market? Obviously, we all know about that Secret Wars 8 page, and I think we're probably going to mark that in history as there's the comic art market post Secret Wars 8. But what do you think about the Zeck market in general?
I've always liked Zeck, and I guess despite his long career, he has a fairly limited body of work, so there aren't that many published pages from him. I've always liked him. I think sometimes at auction, I do wonder if the fact that his last name Alphabet does matter or not. I think you also said you were bidding on the cover recreation where, because it was a letter Z at the time, you were tapped out or something, right? So
yeah,
I think it's pretty solid, right? I've always liked his Punisher, right? Like everyone else, his sketch covers go for $1,000 or whatever or more. So yeah.
So yeah, I think I think his market has gone significantly up, but
Yeah.
I don't know how much like a regular panel page with Captain America goes for. Obviously, I think probably goes for at least 1,000, even if it's just talking heads
Right.
from Captain America. But no, with your Punisher cover, the word that always struck with me was that recreation,
Yeah.
and
For sure.
and you always, I am pretty sure you probably second guess yourself is like $5,000 for a recreation, $6,000 for a recreation, really? But
Yeah. I actually don't collect recreations much, but for some reason I have 3 or 4 Zek ones. I just like the way he draws and the fact that he limits his recreations and doesn't really draw them anymore. So it's a finite amount. So it's obviously not the published cover, but it's like the next best thing, right? So
yeah, well, he doesn't just limit it, but he actually makes it unique. Like
yes.
what what how it looked back in the '80s versus how he did the recreation. He added a new element to it, and I probably should have put more stock into that. But in any case, I'm happy you want it. I mean, at least it's somebody I know. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could honestly argue that the recreation is probably even better than what the original Punisher cover looked like.
Yeah, artistically, but obviously the nostalgia and people's demand is with the original, right? But that's kind of how our hobby works. So
yeah. So, but obviously, we have a friend, who collects, Zek Captain America. Are you are you gonna be collecting any Zek Captain America?
not really. I guess I never had a nostalgia to his published Captain America run. So for me, it's more Punisher.
Right.
And I think I'm priced out of any sort of published interior pages. I think there's one a comic link right now, so I wonder how they'll go for. But
right,
yeah,
I can't remember. Was Punisher that one where it was intended to be 4 issues, but they extended another issue?
I'm not sure if that was the intent. I know the 5th issue was Vosberg or whatever,
Yes,
and I'm not clear if that was the intent or maybe it was scheduling. So I'm not sure why it was different artists.
Okay. I think I know that. I'm pretty sure that happened for Transformers. That it meant to be a 4-issue limited series, but it actually went further. So, all right. So, do you have any predictions for the next 5 years for this collecting hobby?
I mean, in general, I think it's still a growing hobby. People are aging out. Are they aging out? Maybe. There's more people coming in. So, I mean, in general, I think there's obviously more pop culture interest in comics. Now, how much of that goes to comic art? And hardly very few. I think someone like Alex keeps saying that his kids likes the movies but has zero interest in the comic art that he has. I'm sure some will trickle in.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and I would like to think that at least a plateau and not crash, right? But who really knows, right? Like who knows? Like it's more of a hope than a prediction. So
yeah. But I mean, do you think things will still continue like trending upwards, or do you think there's going to be a dip? Or
it can't double every 6 months. Like what? Right. So the 3.6. I mean that's an outlier. Even taking that out, like even at Tim Sale pages at 20 grand, would it go 40? Sure, but what, will it go to 100? Like who knows, right? it can't increase at this rate. It's just not mathematically possible. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I don't think any of us, thought that things would escalate to where it is now. I mean, I don't know if you did, but
yeah.
Did you ever think that you would have $100,000 Weapon X cover?
No. I had a hard time paying like the 15 or whatever I paid for it back then, right? Like
yeah. Yeah, and I think it wasn't too long ago after like the first Comic Link auction, one of our friends sold a panel page from Weapon X for like $60,000.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're very lucky. I mean, I don't think I do not have a Barry Windsor Smith, and I'm honestly for myself, I don't need a Weapon X one, but I do need to have a good example of Barry Windsor Smith. I went to a comic art meetup at my friend's Fish's place, and Darren Domina came in, and he showed me the Barry Windsor Smith with Iron Man. Is the Centurion, and he's hanging.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he just had it right there in his portfolio. Out of just I mean, he had lots of great Iron Man covers in that portfolio, but that Barry Windsor Smith one was just was just beautiful. And I think anytime you hold a Barry Windsor Smith in your hand, I mean, it's just gorgeous. So
yeah, I agree.
So I think you mentioned it earlier. I mean, you and I mean, we both been collecting for a little while. Any other check boxes that we need to go after? Or you?
Yeah. So you give me a preview of the questions you're gonna ask. So I did some like looked at my comics at a cap because I had to purge my comic collection. So I
Mhm.
mean, obviously I still would like a Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns, but I'm never gonna get those at current pricing. So I think looking at the comics that I like, that I think I have a chance of buying something at market value. I think it's like Give Me Liberty, the original Martha Washington series.
Mhm.
That one I still want a page from. And then the early David Mack, like Circle of Blood Kabuki, I still want a page from that. I bought a prelim cover around that vintage, but I'm still looking for a good interior page from that. I think those are the two that I think I'm kind of looking for, that I think I still have a chance of getting something. But who knows? Maybe when they come for auction, I'll still get blown out of the water, right? So
So you're looking for David Mack Kabuki interior?
yes, from Circle of Blood, not the newer ones.
Okay.
That particular miniseries. And then the Dave Gibbons, Frank Miller, Give Me Liberty, 4-issue series from like the 80s or 90s or whatever.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I did see. I saw my first Kabuki interior, a couple of weeks ago, and I think that was the first time I ever seen one in my life. So
Really? I've seen some
yeah.
here and there, and again, I didn't go as strong as I should have. So
Mhm.
I'll see what happens when the next one comes up.
But you're looking for one for specifically the Circle of Life.
Circle of Blood 6-issue miniseries. That one I like the best. So that one. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I still have some check boxes, and maybe at some point I'll splurge on the specific artists. It's like, I honestly I have a few Bernie Wrightson, but I don't have a great Bernie Wrightson. So maybe there at some point I'll splurge. And also, I don't have a great Brian Boland. I know you have a few. So so but maybe at some point I'll splurge and get one. So
I suppose I also wouldn't mind a Brian Boland Animal Man cover from the Grant Morrison run, but again, I think if the one comes up, I'll get blown out of the water. So it's probably less likely for me to get it. So
yeah. So I know you don't really collect new books, but are there any other like up and coming artists that sort of grabbed your attention?
Not. I don't think so. I mean, but this way, the new artists in my mind are no longer new. Like Jim Chung's relatively new, but obviously he's been around for a while. Same with Quakel. Right. So that kind of era, but that's 10, 15 years now. How long has that been, right? McNiven, I think they're relatively new in the grand scheme of comic art or comics, but certainly like anyone that would have come on board the last 5 years, I probably wouldn't know or wouldn't know their market or know where to seek out their art, right? So.
Yeah. There are a couple artists who probably have probably been around for 10 years, but I honestly didn't discover them probably till like last year or the year 2 years before. I think I was late on discovering like Dustin Weaver. I think he's a pretty good artist. Pepe Larez. Was it Larez? I can't remember, but he's been drawing some X-Men issues for Jonathan Hickman, and I think he's one of the best artists right now. But I didn't know he's been drawing for quite a while, because I was reading some old issues and he was actually the artist on it. I'm like, wow, I didn't know he's been around that long. But I think now he's one of the hottest artists, new artists out there. And there's this other artist called her name is Zu Orzu, and she's repped by Annabelle, but she's doing things that it's a little different from traditional, but it's kind of like Bill Sienkiewicz, that kind of style. So no, I think there are a couple of new artists, but I think what I'll be honest with you, what probably discourages me most from the new artists is that they're all going through this style where they're doing blue line inks on their own work. They're doing a lot of printing out their work, and then they're inking on top of it.
Do you consider it a negative though? I guess in my mind, if it's the same artist, it's not like it's not like a superstar penciler that did a blue line and a average inker, but it's the same guy. Right. In my mind, I mentally don't discount that myself.
It's to me it's more about the blue tint. It's
okay.
That to me it's that I find that sometimes distracting. Now, people will tell me, well, what about Todd McFarlane? He had blue pencils all over the place.
Yeah.
No. When I saw that Spider-Man #1, I wanted to erase the blue pencils. I mean, the blue pencils did distract me. I mean, there's some folks who do just enough blue pencils that you just slightly notice it, not a big deal. But then there's blue pencils that's all over the place, and I do find that somewhat kind of distracting. So, all right, Mel, let's get to some of the art that that you shared. So,
what order are you going with?
All right, so I'm gonna start out with Mr. Bolin.
Okay.
So, this one here, my goodness. I mean, I'll zoom into a bigger picture here, and you just see all the fine lines that are on this Judge Dredd. So, tell me, what do you love about this piece?
Well, so I enjoy the Bold and Dread run, even though I read it as back issues. I have a cover, as you know, but that one was just a head with some mushrooms on it. As nice as it is, so I've always wanted like at least an interior with Judge Dredd in it, and obviously when this one became available, I went for it. Right, I kind of all my sell stuff, that any piece I had was marginally sellable or in my mind was not keeper. I just liquidated them all to kind of help fund this. So yeah, it came up, and I knew there's only so many of them out there. Even though this is obviously not from the main run, but it's a pretty strong image. So, and then as you said, all the detail, right? It's like classic Bolin, right? So I had to go for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read Brian. I mean, I didn't read Judge Dredd back in the day, so I always find it pretty impressive when people I mean, other than the folks from the UK, but people in North America who were big Judge Dredd fan. I was always find that pretty amusing.
Have you read the comics since or no? Have you read the comics at all or not?
I have later in my life, but not like during the 90s.
Yeah, so. I think same here. Like I think it was actually came out before my time or before when I was buying comics. But yeah, I read it as reprints like around the 90s. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and by then I appreciated artists and the style. Like I could actually tell that it's Bolin and there's a lot of detail in it. So yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have much nostalgia for Judge Dredd, but I mean, if the right piece came along and I had the money, I wouldn't turn it down either as well. Too. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, my nostalgia for Judge Dredd is Sylvester Stallone in his movie.
That wasn't a bad movie. I think I'm probably one of the few people that liked it. That wasn't a bad movie.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, this is beautiful. I mean, all the line. I mean, that line work. I mean, it's. I mean, seeing pieces like this is just. I wish he didn't go all digital, but
yeah,
I get it. I mean, I think digital. He as he's aging, then and he can with digital he can zoom in as close as he can, and he probably puts out the quality of his work now is just as good as back then. Yeah. It's just not on paper.
And just the productivity, right? The number of pages you can crank out, but produce is probably higher with digital, right? So that's kind of why they do that for speed, right?
So and any thoughts on the Heritage result with
So it's kind of why I guess the ones I picked for you were more like trade covers. So yeah, I was obviously surprised. It was kind of shocking. Now this being a non-comic cover, people think it's less. I like the image better than the one in Heritage, right?
Right.
So again, market's crazy. I can't predict anything, and I'm glad to have an example already. So,
so yeah, I mean, I guess so. So I don't, like I said, I don't have nostalgia for Judge Dredd, but that cover that sold on Heritage. I mean, a lot of great detail, but a very minor like Judge Dredd scene.
Exactly, right? It's just tiny good. So I'm like, I'd rather have mine. The nostalgia, not the original run. I'd rather have this image than the other one. Right?
Yeah, so it was very impressive. So once again, I think you had good fortune in buying this before something like that exploded on the auction. Yeah. So, all right, I'll go to your next one, which is Mr. Jeff Darrow.
Oh yeah. Okay.
1 second here. All right. So, all right. So, So published Jeff Darrow, Big Guy, and Rusty the Robot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was a fellow collector, Jeff Sting, was selling this on, was it Comic RL, whatever, somewhere. So I was added for sale. I bought it. So yeah, similar logic where I obviously enjoyed the original, Rusty and Big Guy with Frank Miller, and obviously again those are probably unattainable. In my mind, this was a cover by the same artist, obviously not by a Frank Miller script, but you can't go wrong with a published cover, right? So yeah, it kind of checked the boxes for me. I had no nostalgia to this particular issue because I never read this newer one, but yeah, like I've always wanted more, a piece from Big Guy. So
is this an early appearance of Big
no, it's
Guy?
a late appearance. It's a more recent, not a but Darrow wrote a newer story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember when this was published, but yeah.
It's what's the size of this?
It's pretty big. So I think I want to say large art with the extra on top. So it's pretty big.
Yeah. I'm not sure what his process is. But he draws very big, and he usually draws on vellum. Is this on vellum or white paper?
Paper board.
Oh,
I think it's board. Yeah.
So I think that's because I think his typical pieces, whether they're pinups or whether they're covers, he draws a lot of them on vellum.
It does. Yeah.
So I mean, but if you got a piece like this, I mean, I would take it in vellum, but it's on white paper. It's even better.
Yep.
So no, that's a very impressive piece, and you just got this recently.
Yeah, so these two were since the last interview, so last year, whenever uploaded it there. Tracked a few months or whatever. So
it was October 2021.
Yeah. So a few months before that.
Wow. And this so the lead came from the Comic Art L group.
So Jeff Singh was selling it as part of his fundraising, and I think he posted about the sale on probably Comic RL and maybe also the CGG. I can't remember where he posted it, but
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but he had one of his one-day sales?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful piece. So, all right. So, I'll go for the next piece. Let's see. Yeah. And this is the Frank Whiteley All-Star Superman.
Yeah, that one was purchased before the last interview. I guess the first two pieces that I picked, or the bigger pieces that I picked, were all like non-comic run covers. So that was my theme for the rest. So this one was obviously a Wizard cover. I liked the image at the time. I think I had sold another interior, and the prices kept on going up and up, and then this one came up, and I kind of said, well, I mean, I think I got this one for the price of an interior page at the time. So, it seems like a no-brainer, right? But I think because it wasn't from the comic, even though it was kind of drawn around the same time, it's a Wizard comic, people, the market, whatever, the collector valued it less. And so I was pretty lucky to get this one.
So, do you also have other like interiors from this series?
Yeah, I only have one left. I think I had sold, I had 3 at one point, or maybe I never had 3, but yeah, I had sold an interior and a half splash before, but I still have one page left.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the series. It was a great series. So
yeah, I know. It's hard to get Frank's art as well too.
Yeah.
And when he gets commission requests, a lot of folks ask for Superman, and Frank would typically draw like a bust. And I think it was at Motor City a couple of years ago before the pandemic, so it was probably like 2018. I mean, those were going for $800 to $1,000 just for a Superman bust. And I think pages from this series. I mean, I think they're definitely in the 5 figures, right? Or
5 is 10,000, I think.
Yeah, 10,000. Is that right? Or
probably? Yeah, I can't remember. I know at one point before the craziness, they were already approaching 5 for like plainer interior. So I can't remember recent sales. I know some private sales have reached 5 figures for like half splashes.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts about this the All-Star Superman? I mean, this is fairly popular. Is that one of your favorite Superman stories?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I'm a big Supreme fan, as you know, which is a Superman trope. So yeah, I thought that was another kind of equal. So yeah, I loved it. It was a great read.
Okay. Oh, so you love both Supreme and Superman?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
At the time
you
it
had
came
it.
out, I didn't get quietly in terms of like I wouldn't pay his art, like the prices. I'm like I wouldn't pay that. But then eventually I came around, right? Like I just kind of saw that was kind of like
Yeah.
okay, that's the price, right? You gotta go for it, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I think of Frank work, I mean, I'm first thing that comes to mind is We Three,
right.
which is a really great series, and my understanding of what I'm heard from a friend was that Frank still owns the entire miniseries, all the art from that miniseries,
Oh, okay, okay.
and I think it's a good choice. I mean, I love that. I think it was written by Grant Morrison as well, um, but that was great. All Star Superman was good. Now, which do you like better? Do you like Red Sun or do you like All
Oh,
Star Superman better?
Red Sun,
Red Sun.
Red Sun. It's a
I
different kind of book, obviously. But yeah, I like Red Sun better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like Red Sun better, but I mean the All Star Superman. I mean I think that series itself was that was really good too. And
Yeah,
then the other thing I think of when I think of Frank Wiley is actually the X-Men. I mean not just because I was X-Men fan. I mean, but it was so different every time. When I would read through his X-Men run, and then I get to like a fill-in artist. It was
right.
such a big difference.
Yeah,
I mean, Frank just it made me miss him every time every time I was reading an issue. It was a fill in artist. But no, he's great, and I don't have a piece from him, but and I probably might never will because his prices for anything is
right.
astronomical. I think, and he doesn't draw. At least I don't see. He doesn't draw many like books currently. I think he maybe draws 2 or 3 issues a year. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a high output of books, and then I don't see them coming to the market a lot either.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, like I said, I don't read new comics, so I don't know if
mm,
he has done anything the last few years,
yeah,
right? So
no, I think it's just rare to see much in any Frank's art in general. So, this is a cool piece. Did you get this off like eBay or is this from a
it was a
dealer?
comic link auction.
Oh, Comic Link auction.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. All right.
I think I won it for half my max bid, which is good and bad. Either I got a steal or I'm totally off in the market price. But who knows?
Well, I'm pretty sure now you'll make more than what you paid.
Yeah,
So
now
I
I'll go.
mean,
Yeah.
who wouldn't love a full body Superman from Frank?
Yeah.
So, all right. Oops, wrong button. All right. So you're gonna have to tell me about this one because I honestly have not read the story here.
Let's see which one is this one.
Sorry. This is this Batman by Dennis.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is one of those weird things where I actually didn't know this existed. So you probably didn't read like at the time 90s. So this is the trade paperback reprint to Detective 598 to 600, the Blind
Mhm.
Justice with Dennis Cohen storyline. So yeah, this just came up when I was buying something else from someone, and he also had this. It was one of those things. As I said, I enjoyed the original, the actual comics. This trade paperback came out a few years later. I didn't know it existed, but it was just such a striking image. It's like large art. It's colored, so yeah, I just went for it. Like, it seems to be underappreciated too. Like people obviously don't know this image as well as the ones from the main run. So
yeah, I do find it interesting that I was just looking at that someone else painted over Dennis is art.
yeah, I thought it was kind of odd too.
I don't typically see like 2 people collaborating on a paint. I mean, it happens. I mean, all the original Punisher covers by Zek. I mean, that was a collaboration between the penciler and the painter. But
Yeah.
in this one here, I mean, typically when I see a painted piece now, it's like usually I see the painter doing everything from soup to nuts.
Right.
But in this one here, I think the painter probably was like, oh, I want to use Dennis's designs and his layouts and then paint over it. I think it looks really nice. So I may probably gonna probably shouldn't be asking what's the story? Why did they call it Blind Justice?
You know what? I don't remember.
Okay.
So those things where I just remember reading it back in the day, and I actually don't remember much about it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is. I mean, looking for a Dennis cover. I mean, this is a good one. And this was used for the trade paperback.
Yeah. I think it was one of the alternate images I have in the listing. There is the published cover.
Yeah. All right. So. So, got two more pieces, and this next one's a doozy. So, oops. So here we have something called the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, and by someone called Starlin. So this one, again, similar to the other one. Obviously, we all know what Infinity Gauntlet is. I didn't know this piece existed. I was the Emerald. It was the 1 year that Albert set up. And then, I just looked through his stuff. He had this. I bought it. Some friends thought I bought it too quickly. Like they thought I overpaid. And I don't think so. I think Albert had a bad weekend. I guess at the time people weren't into comic art as much. And I think I was one big sale, which is pretty bad if that happens, right? So yeah, I didn't know it existed, and it's not obviously by Perez or Lim, which did the regular run, but it's by Stalin, right? So it's not exactly a nobody, and he was the writer. So
yeah, so anytime you get Thanos and Starlin and it's Gemini, so you got is that Al Milgram, I believe?
Yeah.
And inking it. So I don't know how you felt, but to me, Infinity Gauntlet pages were always at the high end.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like Jim Lee pages, always at the high end. No matter what page you're looking at, I mean, it is going to be priced higher than most of your average pages. And Infinity Gauntlet, I mean, at the time I don't remember specifically this cover, but I do remember other Infinity Gauntlet trade paperback covers. I mean, I think Starlin drew maybe 2 or 3 other trade paperback covers.
Yeah, I think he did a poster too especially with the other series, the Infinity War and Crusade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he did other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And so early on in my career, I would see one. I even see someone put gems, real actual gems on,
really?
with the frame with the frame and everything, all 6 gems for a trade paperback cover. But then I saw the price was like $6,000, and I'm like, I mean, back then when I first started, I mean, it was hard for me just to spend $1,000.
How long ago was it when it was 6?
Oh, yeah, it was probably maybe 2004, 2005, or 2006. Yeah, around that time. But you see it, and it was like $5,000, and I'm just, to me, it was.
What year did it upload this art?
Oh, you uploaded. Let's see, when did you upload this art? You up 2011.
I paid I want to say $2,500 for that.
Okay.
Which,
well, you got a great deal.
I would not have paid $5 back then, and I still wouldn't have paid $5 in 2003, right? So,
okay. Right. The other trade paperback cover I remember. I mean, it has I mean, the trade paperback is out of print. I mean, I'm pretty sure this trade paperback, is out of print as well too. But I mean, now I think they all just use the Perez #1 cover as a trade paperback cover. But like I said, I mean, it was just. I mean, your typical cover you could probably find for $1,000, but then it's like $5,000 on for the Infinity Gauntlet trade paperback cover. Now I know Bill Wu had pretty much all of the actual Infinity Gauntlet covers, and that was way. I mean, you're talking at least 5 digits at the time. Right, if he ever would sold it, but I think Bill Wu, he was pretty much connected to his Thanos stuff.
Yeah.
But but he didn't have these trade paperback covers, and I mean, like I said, it was hard for me to spend $5,000. I think I was making like maybe $40,000 a year when I saw them. So, but no, this is really gorgeous. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, you got Thanos, and you got the heroes he's fighting, but having anything published related to Infinity Gauntlet, I think everybody is very fortunate.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. So, Going to another piece. All right, so this is another Wizard cover, and it looks like a jam. So yeah, Quesada, McNiven, Brian Hitch, and Michael Turner.
Yeah. So again, I didn't know it existed. Saw it for sale on CAF. Thought it was priced pretty reasonably. And again, I'm sure the fact that it's a Wizard, not a comic cover, was one reason. And certainly, I think I probably got it less than what a normal McNiven or Quesada cover would have gone for, right? And it's a double cover, so which is pretty good. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. It was a great image. No nostalgia because I didn't read that Wizard magazine issue, nor did I look for it. But
so how did you get this one? Was this from Comic Link or did you from the
no, it
Seamus
was just
collection?
someone on sale on Comic Art Fans. It was a for sale piece.
Oh, so Comic Art Fans. Oh,
Yeah,
now that you mention, I think it might have. I think I might have remember who was selling it. Was this during Civil War or was this before?
Good question. I don't know. I guess depending on when that Wizard magazine was published.
All right, so you got things definitely by Hitch.
Yeah.
Spider-Man McNiven.
Yeah.
So that means
Wolverine
is definitely Joe.
Yeah.
And then you got Hulk. That has to be Michael Turner, but
right. Yeah.
That wouldn't have been my first guess to say Michael Turner. I mean, that's only by process of elimination that I'm guessing that's Michael Turner.
Yeah. And I couldn't credit Miki, the inker on the CAF because they only allow 4 boxes for artists.
Okay.
For that.
Yeah, and I see him sign it 4 times. So
yeah.
in different positions, he's always so creative.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Actually, I've never seen Mickey, Danny Mickey draw on Michael Turner before, and probably the first time I've seen him draw on McNiven. I mean, wow, that Spider-Man is really nice over McNiven.
Yeah.
So, did he also do over Brian Hitch? Looks like it.
I think he did them all, yeah. And I think Frank M. Because when I first started, I want to double check to make sure it wasn't Blue Line, and I emailed Frank, and he kind of gave me the detail. But they actually shipped it around, right? It was all penciled. They shipped it around until Mickey inked it. So,
yeah, I find this really interesting because Brian Hitch, he typically inks himself and is very distinctive, and I think Danny Mickey did a really good job in terms of trying to imitate some of that, Brian Hitch inking, with some of the blacks and everything. Like I wouldn't have guessed that was another inker other than Brian Hitch doing that thing. So that's really interesting. But no, I mean, I'm looking at Spider-Man. I'm just looking at all those details on it. Wow, just gorgeous. Danny Mickey I'm a huge fan of Danny Mickey. So a lot of the stuff he inks, I'm just amazed at. So, so this was a Wizard number 200.
Yeah, some sort of anniversary issue, I think. Yeah.
All right. So that's the last piece of art. And when typically when Bill Cox asked us to do these interviews, when he do these our first interviews, he tells us to grab 16 of our favorite pieces. 16? And I don't know about you, but I always had a really hard time choosing 16 for my collection. And then Mickey, who came for the first interview, he has thousands of pieces. I don't know how he was able to find 16 pieces that he went, or even 5 for tonight. So
right.
So this was actually a good opportunity to see what you've gotten recently, as well as anything that you wanted to show last time, but you just couldn't fit in your show.
Yeah. So it worked out.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for your time, and I enjoyed doing this interview with you. You and Mickey were great today, and we'll see how the market goes. I mean,
it can't go up like this forever. If it does, I guess I'm lucky because I already have all my pieces, right?
Yeah,
so
same as me too.
Right,
I mean,
so.
Most of the stuff that I have a checkbox for, I check them off. Now, I could always use a bowling. I can always use a Barry Windsor Smith, but if I don't get them, I'm fine with my collection.
Yeah, for sure. I think most of us are.
But obviously, wouldn't hurt to add those in my collection, as well as a Bernie Wrightson piece. So
yeah.
So, but thank you, and hope to see you at a con sometime. I don't know if you're planning on going any.
Still a young kid, so not anytime soon. Maybe Emerald when he's a bit older. But hopefully when things go back to normal.
Yeah.
I think we're almost normal, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I hope to do another Emerald City. I love the con, and I love that city as well too. The Emerald. I mean, that Seattle has some of the best restaurants in the world. This has been a fun interview, and Malvin, thanks for your time. Thanks for volunteering. Thanks for giving us your insight, and it's great to talk to you about how things have been over the years. And hopefully I'll see you soon. And I'm looking forward to seeing what your future acquisitions are, because I know you slowed down a bit, but you're always like me. You're always still looking at what else you can get.
So thanks for everything, Larry. This is great. Good job being a host or whatever. So awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And thanks to everybody for joining this show. It is the first time I'm guest hosting, and I'll probably do it again. And I hope you all enjoyed this interview, and maybe I'll do some more. But the main purpose here was to have a night of content and give Bill some time off so that he can do some of his moving, and also to next time I'm filling in is this so that he can prepare for Comic Art Live. So all right, folks, well, have a great rest of your evening, and so long. See you next week.
Bye everyone.